Hello, we are going to be reading Peter Pan today. So please follow along. Listen first, practice reading it, and then try it by turning the sound off. So let's take a look at our front cover. Our title is Peter Pan, and you can see Peter Pan right here in the window. And he's looking down at what? 3 children. Yes, 2 boys and 1 girl. So let's take a look at our story for today. Here are the pictures. The story of Peter Pan. John, Wendy, and Michael Darling were fast asleep in their 3 cozy little beds. Nurse Nana had given them their baths and tucked them snugly in. Nurse Nana was a big dog, but she could bathe and dress the children nicely. It was dark and still in the Darlings' cheery nursery. Suddenly, a tiny ball of light came whizzing into the room. Click, click. The window opened and in slipped a beautiful boy, tall, slender, and graceful. So here he is right there. And they're all sleeping in their cozy beds. "Where is it, Tink?" he cried. "Where is my shadow?" The day before, he had tried to get in at the Darlings' window, and Nana had shut it so quickly that she had cut off his shadow. The tiny ball of light was really a little girl fairy. Right here. Her name was Tinkerbell because she made a sound like a silver bell. Ding, 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 ding. Of course, Tinkerbell knew just where Mrs. Darling had put the shadow, and she flew straight to the second drawer of the dresser. So there's the second drawer of the dresser. The tall boy opened the drawer and pulled out the shadow. But how was he to put it on again? He rubbed soap on his feet, but the shadow just would not stick. He tried again and again, and then he began to cry. His sobs woke Wendy, and she sat up in bed. "Why, what is the matter, little boy?" she asked. The boy sprang up and made her a graceful bow and said, "I cannot put on my shadow." Then he asked, "What is your name?" "Wendy, darling," said Wendy. "And yours?" "Peter Pan." Wendy was a very kind little girl, so he jumped out of bed to help Peter fasten on his shadow. Soon, Peter and Wendy were chatting together like old friends. Peter told her that he once overheard his father and mother talking of what he was to be when he grew up. "I want to be a little boy always," said Peter, "and never grow up. So I ran away to live with the fairies." Oh, but now he went on, "I live with the lost boys, the children who fall out of their go-karts when their nurses are not looking. I'm their captain." So Wendy's helping Peter put on his shadow by sewing it. Peter had been coming to the darling's window, he explained, to listen to the lovely stories Wendy's mother told the children at bedtime. "I must go back now," he went on, "to tell them the end of the glass slipper story." Do you know that story? Cinderella. Maybe that will be our next story. "I'll tell you a lot more if you'll only stay," Wendy promised. But Peter coaxed Wendy to go with him to Never, Never, Neverland, to tell the lost boys stories, to darn their socks, to tuck them into bed, and to be a little mother to them. Wendy did not want to leave her own dear mother at all, but she did want to go with Peter very, very much. "But I can't fly," said Wendy. "I'll teach you," promised Peter, "and your brothers John and Michael too." Peter blew some fairy dust over the children. Look, there they go. They're starting to fly. They flapped their arms, and wonder of wonders, they could fly. Off they floated with Peter Pan and Tinker Bell to the Never, Never, Neverland. The lost boys were wondering why Peter Pan had not come back. There were 6 of them, and they looked like little bears in their fur coats. They lived under the ground because they were afraid of the terrible pirates and their leader, Captain Hook. It's a pirate. Each boy had a little staircase in a tree trunk so they could run down to their homes in the roots when they heard him coming. Captain Hook had ugly black eyes and a big black beard. He had lost one arm in a fight with Peter Pan. There's his hook right there. And the boys are hiding in their trees. Oh, and there's the crocodile. Uh-oh. A crocodile had eaten up Captain Hook's arm, and he wanted to make a meal of the rest of him. Luckily for Captain Hook, the crocodile had once swallowed an alarm clock. It ticked so loudly, tick-tock, tick-tock, that Captain had always time to get away. That day, Captain Hook had been looking for Peter Pan to do him some harm, but the crocodile had frightened the captain away. So that's what's going on in this picture. The boys, when the scare about the pirates was over, were peeping from their tree trunks. They saw something like a lovely white bird floating in the sky. It was Wendy in her nightgown, with Tinker Bell by her side. Now, Tinker Bell was sometimes a naughty little fairy. Just now she was jealous because Peter and Wendy had become friends so quickly. Uh-oh. "Peter wants you to shoot her," called Tinker Bell to the boys. One of them drew his bow, and Wendy fell to the ground. But they were all very glad that Wendy was only a little hurt. So here she is. That wasn't very nice, was it? They shouldn't have done that. The boys were very eager to make up for their unkindness, so they built a little house around Wendy as she lay on the ground. They made it very cozy with a grate and a rug and a chimney of John's tall hat that he had brought with him. They all had great fun together in the little house. Wendy mended the boys' socks. She told them wonderful stories and was the best little mother in the world to them. But Wendy could not help feeling very sorry for her own mother and father, left alone without any children. She said she and her brothers must go back. The boys coaxed and coaxed her to stay. But when she told them they might come too, they were delighted. Peter alone would not go. He knew that he would grow up if he left the Never, Never, Never land. Wendy, John, and Michael and the boys had said goodbye to Peter and were starting for the Darlings' home when something dreadful happened. The wicked pirates seized them and dragged them away to Captain Hook's pirate ship on the lake nearby. Oh no, that's Captain Hook. They're all tied up on his big ship. It looked very much as if they would never see Mr. and Mrs. Darling and Nurse Nana. But Tinker Bell, because she was sorry that she had once been unkind to Wendy, now tried to help. She flew back to Peter's cave and told him the bad news. At once, Peter was off to the rescue. In one hand, he carried an alarm clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Its tick-tick made Captain Hook think that the crocodile was after him again. While Captain Hook was trying to hide, Peter rushed into the cabin and set up a shrill crowing. The pirates were terribly frightened, for they did not know what strange creature was on board. So Peter got on the ship. In the fight that followed, Peter and the boys got the better of the pirates, and they all escaped. How happy Mrs. Darling was to have her 3 dear children back again. She wanted their friends to live with her always too. But Peter would not stay. He loved Wendy and Mrs. Darling, but he never wanted to grow up. So at last, they made this plan. Peter should fly back to the Never, Never, Never land, and once a year, Wendy would go to visit him and do his spring cleaning. So here's the picture of Wendy visiting Peter in their little house once a year. And on the back, there is a poem that I will read to you. Peter Pan, I wish I could wake up some night like these 3 children here. Then when I'd open wide my eyes, have Peter Pan appear. Perhaps if I spoke low to him and promised to be good, he'd let me fly away with him. Oh, how I wish I could. I hope you enjoyed Peter Pan today. Keep practicing, and I hope you hit subscribe to the channel for more stories. Thank you for listening today. Bye.